Charles and His G's Bin Quilt, written by Tangular Irby. On a lazy Sunday afternoon, Charles sat playing in his living room with his friends, Lucius and Robert, as the aroma of homemade biscuits, smothered chicken, rice, collard greens from the garden, and Grandma's famous tea cakes filled the house. "Wow, that quilt is amazing," Lucius said. "My mom has quilts like this at our house. Grandma told me I come from a long line of G's Bin quilters whose quilts have been displayed in galleries and museums all over," Charles proudly boasted. "When I get older, I'm going to make quilts too, and one of my quilts will hang over there one day." Charles pointed to the empty space where he intended to hang his work. "That's pretty neat. I've never heard of that before. What are G's Bin quilts?" Lucius asked, wide-eyed. Charles sat up straight with confidence. "Back when my grandma was younger, the house she lived in did not have any heat, so she and her siblings used quilts to keep warm during winter. The families who lived in G's Bin, Alabama, were very large. Some had 10 or more children, so they needed a lot of quilts. They would tear up old clothing to use for fabric. The women would move from house to house, quilting during the evening. During the day, many of them worked at the Freedom Quilting Bee. They would use sewing machines to piece together the tops, but they quilted them together by hand." Lucius and Robert listened in amazement, surprised that their playdate had turned into a fantastic lesson about Charles's family history. "Grandma always says quilts are like your handwriting," Charles explained. "She says every quilt should be different from everyone else's. I asked Grandma how she comes up with so many different designs. She told me she talks to God when she quilts, and He gives her an idea every time. I told her that I'm not sure that I will be able to quilt the way she does, but she told me, 'You can only do your best. You cannot do my best.'" "Helping Grandma is exciting." Charles tossed his hands in the air with a warm smile. "I get to pick the pieces of fabric that she will use next or thread the tiny needle. Sometimes I thread 3 or 4 so they will be ready when she needs them. She even lets me fix her sewing machine when it won't work." Lucius and Robert lay on their bellies as Charles recounted the rest of his story, his voice rising and falling like he was singing a song. "Grandma says quilting isn't always easy. Sometimes the fabric is very thick, and she has to use a thimble to keep from pricking herself. One time she stuck herself, and I could tell she was vexed. Ouch! But no matter what, Grandma keeps quilting." "It sounds like your grandma knows what she is doing," Robert said. "I bet you can't make one." "Yes, I can," Charles blurted in response to Robert's challenge. "Since you think you know everything, listen to this. The most important part of the quilt is the top. To make her special designs, Grandma sews many different scraps together. Sometimes she uses my old clothes that don't fit anymore, or Grandpa's old t-shirts." Charles spoke quickly, telling everything he learned, but paused to take a breath before starting again. "When the top is finished, the rest of the quilt is ready to be stitched together. Did you know that?" Charles crossed his arms in satisfaction when Lucius and Robert shook their heads, then went on. "The middle layer is called the batting. When Grandma was little, sharecroppers grew the cotton, and they would pick, then flatten it for the quilts. Next comes the backing. Quilters used to use 25-pound sacks for the backing, but now we can go to the store to buy everything we need." "Do you have any questions?" Charles asked his friends. "No," they answered in unison. "Good," Charles said. "Now, when all of the pieces are together, the backing is folded to the front and the quilt is binded together. Some people quilt straight lines, crooked lines, patterns, or designs. Sometimes Grandma follows the designs on the quilt top. Then there are times when she sews puzzle patterns. She says that it depends on what God says when they talk. I like looking on the back of the quilt to see your designs. Wow, Charles, you are right! Robert exclaimed. You know a lot about quilting. Grandma says that me and my cousins need to learn so that the world will know about our quilts too. The boys hadn't noticed that Grandma sneaked in to eavesdrop and hear Charles teaching his friends so well. She held a few quilts in her arms as she addressed the boys with a sweet smile. It sounds like Charles has been watching and listening, Grandma beamed with pride. He knows all about our family quilts and where they came from. We didn't have a lot of money back then, but we always had our quilts. Our elders gave us quilts as gifts, especially when we moved up north. We got them when we married. We even got them when we came back down south for visits. Robert and Lucius, I have a gift for you. Here are your very own G's Ben quilts. Take good care of them. Grandma handed each boy a quilt and was delighted to hear them cheer with excitement. On the back of your quilts, I have signed my name and written the name of the quilt. No one else has a quilt like yours. One day, you can pass it down to your own children and tell them the story of G's Ben quilts. Make sure you smash that like button and subscribe. Most importantly, please support the author by purchasing their book. Until next time.